never reported him. He just did what he did and got away with it, basically.
Yes, that is correct.
So how long after that was it that I mean, I know he got caught for some of them. How did all that come about?
So I'm not sure exactly when he went back up to Alaska, but he did go back up to Alaska at some point. I believe it was sometime in 2016. And he started the same thing. I found some people who are reporting that he got names from people that he was locked up with, which is not the case. He said, I'm sure I've heard some people's names, or maybe in the past I have got some names from those people, but he said not the ones in Alaska. Okay. So the ones in Anchorage were from the, little gangster community where he went, and he did the same thing. And he went to go look up, so originally he had 8 names, and he went to go start looking them up, and a bunch of them were already registered sex offenders. And he ended up getting a 9th name while he was out, like he was at another person's house, another pedophile's house or apartment complex. And these 2 guys who kind of run the apartment complex, little gangsters, came down and were like, "What are you doing here?" And he told them what he was doing. They were like, "Oh, awesome. We have another name for you." And so he ended up getting a 9th name by doing that. So guy number 1, he goes in, the 3 guys that he's convicted of assaulting. First guy, what he does is he looks them up. He finds their address. He did get their addresses off the sex offender registry, but that's not where he got their names from. He goes to their address. He knocks on the door, and person answers. He says, "Are you so-and-so?" And they say, "Yes, I am." And then he forces his way in, sits the person down, slaps him around. For guy number 1, he slaps him a bunch of times real hard, yells at him, talks to him, tries to tell him, "You better stop what you're doing, because I'm going to come for you," whatever.
And they're probably scared shitless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because those guys are cowards. So
yes,
the minute somebody brings that shit to their attention, they like ball up and cry, because they're crying because they got caught, really.
Yep. It's an embarrassing thing. Nobody in the world likes that shit other than either other pedophiles or pedophile sympathizers, which there are plenty of those. I don't know if you know that, but it's anyways.
I mean, I can imagine there are. Anything happens in 2021 now.
I know. So, and then he steals some shit, and then he leaves. And I'm going to stop right here for a second, because a lot of people like to be like, "Well, why did he have to steal?" And
to survive.
Well, it wasn't even just that. It wasn't even to survive. What he would do is he would take these laptops and whatever it is that he stole, and he would end up giving majority of it to raped, battered women, or, survivors of situations that are just like this. And he actually gave them away all in the lower 48. He was giving this to the poor community with the women who have been raped and, victims.
So he was kind of like a modern day Robin Hood.
Kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Except for, victims.
Yes.
Yeah, wow, yes. That's crazy. So he got charged for that guy that you're just talking about, what he slapped around?
Yeah, so he does that guy, he gets away with it. And this is over a 5-day period. These 3 guys that he got busted for, this is over a 5-day period. So he does that. And then he has guy number 2. And I believe it was guy number 2. I can't remember. I know it was either guy number 1 or guy number 2 that he actually had 2 girls who had been raped and molested as children, who he happened to be hanging out with before he was going to do this. And he had told, the group of people that he was hanging out with what he was planning on doing. And they were like, "Oh man, we're survivors. Can we go with?" And he ended up letting them come with. And there's actually a video of one of the girls, actually got a video on her cell phone of him slapping the guy around.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, which I haven't even seen it yet. I think that it's in his old attorney, I think, has it. His discovery, I think it's in there somewhere. But anyways, so second guy, he goes, does the same thing. "Are you so-and-so?" Yes, goes in. He ends up punching this guy a few times, giving him the talking to, steals some stuff, and then he leaves. I think he stole a truck, actually stole the guy's truck at some point. And then third guy, this guy, Wesley Demarest is his name. I think there was a bed and breakfast, or he had something where he was renting a room out at his house, because Jason went and he was knocking on the door. Nobody would answer. And eventually he goes over to the side light and he has a backpack, because he always had a backpack with some tools and like his cell phone and a notebook and all of that in it with the names. And he pulled the hammer out and he broke through the window to get in, put the hammer back in his bag, goes in. And as he's walking down the hallway, a couple comes out of a room and he's like, you guys have nothing to do with this. Go in your room and shut the door. And he goes down the hallway to Wesley's room, and Wesley's standing there waiting for him, because obviously he'd been knocking on the door and they weren't answering for a reason. They knew.
Right.
And so, Jason tells him to sit down on the bed, and he refused to do it. Jason had set the backpack down in between the two, said sit on the bed. He wouldn't do it. And Wesley starts punching Jason just in the face, just punching him over and over again. And he's a big dude. He's actually bigger than my brother. My brother is 6'2", I think.
Damn, he's a big boy.
Yeah, this man was pretty large. So Jason just kind of sat there while he punched him a few times. He was like, okay, if this is how you want to play it. He pulls out the hammer, hits the guy in the face like 4 or 5 times, something like that, until he passes out on the floor. And he steals some shit, and then he goes and gets in his car and he starts leaving out of the cul-de-sac, and the couple had called the police. And so the police start coming down the cul-de-sac, and that's how he got busted.
Did he get an attorney, or was he had a public defender? Like, how did his defense go? Because those are serious charges when you go in someone's house and you hit them. So did he have a private attorney, or did he just have a public defender to defend him?
So the charges that were brought against him were 22 different felonies. So there's about 7 or 8 felonies per person, per pedophile that he beat. And his story kind of went on the news. He didn't have any money to get an attorney. However, his story went on the news, and someone had started a GoFundMe or a GoFundly or something for him to help raise some money. And I don't remember how much she ended up raising, like $1,500 or $2,000. And he was able to obtain an attorney, and I can't remember his name.
Anyways, you in his life at this point?
Yes, we talk every single day, actually. I just got off the phone with him before this interview.
Oh, okay, cool. So no, I mean, when he got arrested and the lady so you haven't even talked to him when all this is going on?
I hadn't even found him. I didn't even know his story yet. Like, I didn't even know who my brothers were at this point. So this is in 2016, and I don't find my brother. It was November of 2017 whenever I actually found out who my brothers were.
Was he still in jail fighting these charges when you found him?
Yes, he hadn't even been sentenced yet. He was sentenced in February of 2018.
What was the first time that you interacted with him after you found him?
Yeah, so whenever I found him, of course, I bawled my eyes out and I researched for like weeks. Every little article, he had written letters, every little piece of information on the internet that I could find, I read. And I was also in contact with some of our family on our dad's side, including his mother. I talked to his mother for a few days, and his half brother for a few days as well. And then also a cousin, actually a few cousins on our dad's side. Okay. And I was terrified to write him because he was waiting to be sentenced, and there were 2 reasons that I didn't want to write him. One was I didn't want to distract him and, get him more stressed out or anything like that, having this long lost sister or whatever while he's waiting to be sentenced, while all that's going on. And I think back now and I kick myself about it because he needed me at that time. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know. This is my first time going through all this. So, and the second reason it was a selfish reason, is because he was all over the news. I didn't want to get lost in the fan mail or the fandom or whatever, or him just kind of dust me aside, thinking I'm some
wacko
person, some psycho, like trying to say, I'm your sister, like trying to get, any of that. And so I waited, and I actually had bookmarked his court where you can get on and you can see what's going on with certain cases. I bookmarked that on my computer. And every once in a while I'd go on there and I'd refresh it to see what was going on with the case. And it just kept saying it was postponed and rescheduled and postponed and rescheduled, the sentencing. And so, and this went on for months. And in March, either in March or April of 2018, keep in mind, I found him, I discovered who he was in November of 2017, and he had not been sentenced yet.
When you found your brother and you did all that research in those 3 weeks of all the articles, the letters, what was your first initial thought about everything?
What the fuck is wrong with all of our family and everybody else who turned their back on him? Like,
Yeah.
how is not one single person in our family by his side, helping him, supporting him? How did every single parent and every single family member of those 3 parents turn their backs? And that still to this day blows my mind. Like,
Are you talking to any of those family members like today or?
So I'm in contact with a couple of cousins. In fact, she just came here and stayed. Her and her husband came and stayed. They were kids whenever this was going, this stuff with my brother and Larry Fulton and all of that were going on. So it's not like they could have really done anything to stop it, nor did they probably even know that it was going on. So, I don't put any blame on them or anything like that. So I am in contact with a couple of our cousins and their families and stuff like that. Joel, however, whenever I found Jason, so I told you I spoke to their stepbrother or their half brother.
Right.
And he reached out to Joel to see if he would be interested in meeting me. Now Joel, he's very successful. You can look him up. His name's Joel Fulton. He's got a PhD. He lives in California. He is a CFO of a very large cybersecurity company. I don't think it's CFO, it's something else. Oh, he's the CISO. The CISO of a very large cybersecurity. However, he's a very damaged soul, obviously. So
Right.
My 2 brothers had 2 completely different paths. Jason went down this path of crime, and here Joel is making who knows how much money, on the news, doing interviews, getting, he's successful. However, he's a very damaged person. He's had 3 wives. I don't even know how many kids he has, probably like 7 or 8, if I'm guessing correctly. And he did not want anything to do with meeting me. Although he'd never even heard of me, didn't know I existed. He was just like, nope, no, thank you. So
Obviously you wanted to meet Jason, right?
Absolutely. And I have, actually.
Okay. How did that go?
It was amazing. I've actually been to visit him 3 different times in Alaska. And I'm here in Texas. So, I traveled all the way up there. And it was awesome. Wow. It was very nervous. I was very nervous at first, obviously. We've been talking on the phone for months every day, writing each other, all of that. But meeting somebody, your brother, who you've been looking for, I looked for them for 16 years. So, look for your whole life and you finally get to meet him. I was definitely nervous.
So he's in prison right now in Alaska, right?
Mm-hmm. In Seward, Alaska, and Spring Creek Correctional Center.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I actually know that prison. It was on Lockup Raw like 10 years ago where they went in. And yeah, it looks like it's off the chain there. So what is life like for him now? Like, what's the next step in his life?
So he has actually, before COVID, before his story started going kind of viral and kind of blowing up, over the past 6 months, 8 months, he was, in locked up, but he's literally taking every single class, getting every single certification, doing everything he possibly can on the inside. In fact, I have it and I can send it, but I have a stack of certificates and, things that he's done in there. He was working, he was a part of the restorative justice program. He started what was that program called? It's like a release program. So if you're 6 months
Right,
before
like a
getting out.
re-entry.
Yeah,
Re-entry.
a
Okay.
reentry
Yeah.
program. They had their own little mod. He was mentoring guys. He was helping them do their resume, helping them apply for jobs,
That's
helping them
awesome.
find places to live. You know, he's doing everything he can in there. But you know, COVID happened, so they shut everything down, all the classes for the most part, unless it's like a mandatory, you know, something. And you know, he was in the hobby shop. You see these paddles back here?
Yeah. He did that?
He yes, and so he makes those. He there's a jewelry box, you know, there's jewelry, like they were doing all kinds of awesome stuff. He did a podcast on the inside, actually. Yeah, him and two other guys went through and they interviewed all the lifers.
How long did he get?
23 years. So
Like flat 23, not getting out before that.
so what happened was whenever he was going to be sentenced, he put out a plea deal saying, hey, I'll plead guilty, and as long as you agree to not give me any more than the combined sentences, you know, that these three pedophiles served, and I'll also throw in the 3 years that Larry Fulton was supposed to serve and didn't. And it ended up being like 9.5 years, something like that, and they laughed him out of the court.
Yeah, I actually read that when I was researching his case, and I was like, well, damn, if that's not a fair deal, I don't know what is. Like what they're doing to me is, you know, 10 times worse than going in someone's house and smacking them around.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so they laughed him out of the court on that. And he ended up taking a plea deal, which basically dropped the 22 charges down to 2 charges, 1 count of assault and 1 count of robbery. And the reason he did that was because if he had not pled, he never denied what he did, right?
Right.
Obviously. He was guilty. He never said he wasn't. However, if he had not taken the plea deal, that judge would have been in there for life, you know, because
oh yeah, I know. That's how it always works.
The max sentence on 22 charges would have been over 100 years, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So, well, you're in his life, obviously. You just got off the phone with him. Are you, you know, obviously you're there for support and to let him know that he's still loved, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And
That's awesome.
I'm doing everything that I can. So he's up for discretionary parole. So he was sentenced to, it was 28 years, 5 years suspended, and 5 years probation. So,
Damn.
so he's 23 years is what he's supposed to serve. He's up for discretionary parole in July of 2023. So we are both working, and amongst a few other helpers that are helping really hard to get prepared for discretionary parole, because the parole board in Alaska right now is really, 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 really tough, especially with the governor up there now. And anyways, so it's really, really hard to get paroled up there. So all the things that we're doing, we're working on getting him PTSD treatment. I'm trying to get him to where he can we've finally found a college that you can do courses by mail, and the books are on Barnes and Nobles, because there's only 2 book vendors that they approved. They just recently took Amazon off, and Barnes and Nobles, and I can't remember what the other one is. I hadn't heard of it, but there's only 2 book vendors, and they're not allowing. Anyways, so I'm working on that. We're getting, you know, we're asking the community to write letters of support to the parole board.
Yeah, I saw a couple petitions going around on Facebook for him.
Right. Yes. And there we do have some change.org petitions. The only thing about change.org is I'm kind of nervous about it, because we had 2 petitions months back that we were trying to get combined. They were over 10,000 between the 2 of them, 10,000 signatures, and it was probably 5 months ago. And I got in contact with change.org. Well, when I got in contact with them, they actually read the descriptions of what the petition was for, and it violated their rules. It was supporting a violent criminal, or somebody convicted of a violent crime or something like that. So they just took them down. So we do have change.org petitions out there. And
so do you have links to all these? Like, do you have any links that you have? And like I was saying, I'll put them in the description.
Yeah, I have a link tree that actually links to all of them.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, anybody watching this right now, I'm going to put all that in the description.
Mhm.
And what would you say right now is the main goal in his mind for continuing to go forward in life? Is it taking those classes? Is it trying to talk to the youth still? I know you mentioned that in the beginning.
Mhm.
What's his main concern right now other than getting parole?
Right. So obviously getting paroled is the big one, but when he gets out, which is just another thing that we're doing to help prepare him for the parole hearing, is to have, he needs to have a job. So right now, this course that we want him to take in there is actually to get his paralegal certificate. But psychology, so he can do, be a therapist, a counselor, and specialize in, kids who are survivors of the same situation, the same type of things that he was endured. I mean, even so much as he would kill it in the courtroom if he was, a prosecutor, who specialized in cases such as his, those kinds of
Yeah,
things.
facts.
Um, so yeah, so I'm working on trying to that's his end goal, is that, he gets out, and that instead of helping, these victims or survivors in the way that he used to, he could do it in a legal way and, take care of himself, but also continue to help kids and victims. So that is the
So
goal.
in the link tree that you're going to provide, is there, if someone wanted to donate money to help him get those
Mhm.
books from Barnes and Noble and the other place, do you have a link for that as well?
I do. I actually have
Okay.
two. What happened was I was going to start a GoFundMe, but GoFundMe is similar to the change.org. You can't raise legal fees for a convicted somebody of a violent crime, convicted of a violent crime.
Okay.
So I created a PayPal money pool because we are hiring an attorney. In fact, I'm waiting for a second contract. I have two attorneys on the kind of on the line that we've actually raised some money for, and we're about to dump all of it onto these two attorneys probably this coming week. But so we have the PayPal technically for attorneys' fees, and then we have a GoFundMe that's for anything else. If you want to put money on his books, if you want to donate money to help, get the books or pay for courses so he can get those classes. We're also trying to see if there's a PTSD, specialist, a therapist, counselor out there who would be willing to donate their time to do, if we can get Zoom approved, Zoom sessions to do, therapy
Yeah, that would
sessions via
probably be
Zoom.
really beneficial.
Yeah. And then obviously the letters to the parole board and the governor. Obviously, the parole board and the governor don't want to hear Jason is a hero. You need to let him out and continue on doing what he should. That they
Right.
want to, basically, the support that they want to hear. The parole board wants to know that Jason's going to have a job. He's going to have a support, a family and friends of supporting, making sure that he has a place to live, making sure that he goes to his appointments that he needs to go to, making sure he's not committing any crimes, those types of things. Those are the types of things that they want to hear in these letters. So there's a link
Right.
on there that to a Google Drive that has two like templates that you can use. People can use one for the governor, one for the parole board, and you honestly can just sign it, and that the address is on there.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to link all the links in the description. So if anybody wants to help out, by all means, definitely help out. It's for a good cause.
There's also links in there to, like, look, this is a shirt that one of his supporters made. It
Okay.
says Alaskan Avenger. It's got him here. While obviously
Oh,
I
that's
don't
cool.
condone violence or condone what he did, and I've never said what he, did is right. This is something that one of his supporters made, and they actually they sell them. So if anybody, and the proceeds go to Jason. So
That's what's up. Yeah, get yourself an
yeah.
Alaskan Avenger t-shirt.
Mhm.
That's what's up. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool, man. All right. Well, hey, I just want to thank you for coming on the channel. And I know, you must have been through a lot with all this, and you still are. And I really like salute you for sticking by a man that you had never met. Blood doesn't always make someone family. And I commend you for doing that, because when we're behind those walls, that's really what we need, is love, care, and, you know, somebody being there for you. And so I, you know, I definitely salute what you're doing. But hey, I'm going to link everything in the description, and just want to thank you for coming on the channel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime you want to, just let me know. So anyway, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that thumbs up. Support Jason Vukovich and what his sister's doing for him and the programs and everything. But hey, with that, it's DOC TV, and we're out.